Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about probably the most evil mom alive. If you guys like these type of videos, don't forget to subscribe, like, and honestly, buckle up. I'm just going to give you a trigger warning. What I'm about to talk about here is really disturbing, really evil, and I just can't even believe this actually happened in real life. So Michelle Knotek is her name. She goes by Shelly. She's from Raymond, Washington. She was a pretty normal mother. She lived in like a picture perfect small town. She had 3 daughters that she would present them perfect, always in great looking outfits, always matching, dressed to the nines. Michelle herself, apparently they said, had beautiful red hair and just seemed ultimately picture perfect. She had a husband named David who was a Navy veteran, and he worked in the construction business to provide for his family. It said that he was very mild-mannered. He was like very a little bit shy and quiet. He doted on his 3 daughters. He like loved them so much. So Shelly had been divorced 2 times previous to this, and she had 2 daughters from her previous marriages. Nikki, who was 12, and Sammy, who was 9, and then David and Michelle had their own daughter together, and that's Tori, and they had her in 1989. So as the girls got older, got more independent, they decided to start letting friends or family stay in their home that kind of had fell on hard or difficult times. Basically lend them a helping hand, help them get back on their feet, which seems really commendable and kind. In 1988, they decided to take on their nephew, Shane Watson, after his parents couldn't really afford or mentally be able to care for him. And then later that year, Michelle's good friend, a hairdresser, ended up moving in as well after she had lost her job. Then Ron Woodworth was a military vet. He ended up coming to stay with them as well after he had lost his own home in 1999. So you would think, wow, picture perfect family, they're doing awesome, great deeds, good for them, you know, props to them, they're amazing, picture perfect, blah, 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 blah. And this is why I say everything you see on social media, online, on the outside is never what it seems, because things are about to take a horrible turn. Her house guests start vanishing under really strange circumstances. Now, all of these victims have went unnoticed until 2003, and the reason they came to light is because her daughter finally contacted the local sheriff's department, finally revealed the horrors that had taken place in this household. Her daughter says that when her mom had met David, he considered her the most beautiful woman he had ever seen in his whole life. But she says the relationship was pretty unhealthy from the start. He was incredibly submissive. He wouldn't stand up for her. He would basically do whatever she said, and she would verbally tear into him. But he would turn a blind eye to it, and he would never do anything about it or stick up for himself. One time, her 2 oldest daughters, along with Shane, the nephew that they had brought in, they were made to stand outside in freezing temperatures, locked out in the middle of the night, and she would douse them with freezing cold water while they were naked. Michelle would call this wallowing, and it was because it was punishment for them committing crimes or acts that she called them, such as going to the bathroom without asking permission. She would also lock her daughters in the chicken coop, and she would also make them cut off patches of their down there hair to basically embarrass them, and then when they would listen, because obviously they're terrified, then she would laugh and mock them and imitate them. Just sick and cruel. She had hurt Sammy so often that she would wear big trousers to school to cover up all her bruises. One time she shoved Nikki, her other daughter, her head through a glass door and said, "Look what you made me do." Not only would she do these type of things like physical, but she would also manipulate them and mess with their brains mentally. She would make the nephew Shane and her daughters, which at the time were young teens, dance naked together just to humiliate them and embarrass them. Then after she would do this, Then she would shower them with affection so that she could easily fool other people. So Kathy, which was her hairdresser, she ended up moving into the house, and it said that at first she would help her in the home, help take care of the kids, help with errands, help cooking, cleaning, things like that. And not too long into her stay, she started really humiliating Kathy and torturing her just like she did her own kids. She ended up making Kathy work around the house naked. She would feed her sedatives. She made her sleep in the basement next to the big boiler thing, and get this, they even made her travel in the trunk of the car when they would go places. After 6 years of Kathy being subdued to this, she ended up passing away in 1994. One of the horrible beatings that she endured from Michelle. Then told her daughters and her husband and her nephews that they'll all go to jail if anybody were to say anything. Sammy, the daughter of Michelle, says she doesn't think she intended to take Kathy's life, that things just got too out of hand. But I mean, what do you expect to happen if you're doing that to somebody? But afterwards, David, the husband, like burning Kathy and getting rid of all the evidence. Now, of course, this is where Kathy's family is calling, asking what happened to her, where's she at? They haven't heard from her. And Michelle made up this story that she had ran away with her new boyfriend named Rocky. Now, this is where Shane, the nephew, ended up showing Polaroid photos that he had taken of Kathy to Nikki, which was the one daughter of Michelle's, and told her that he was going to take these to the police because it showed proof of all the bruises and the black and blue spots all over her body. It shows her naked, crawling on the floor, and he really wanted to take them to the police. I'm assuming Nikki ended up getting scared and ended up telling her mom that Shane was hiding these photos in a teddy bear, and she told her the intentions he had of what to do with these photos. And then in February of 1995, this is where David ended up putting a bullet into Shane's head, and he was actually 19 years old at the time. David ended up spreading his ashes after he burned them into the ocean, and Michelle ended up telling her daughters that he had moved to Alaska to work as a fisherman. This is what's like so creepy and weird. David would even miss work sometimes to go on searches to go look for him and find him. That way the girls would believe that he was doing the best he could to find their cousin. So twisted. Then that brings us to 1999 when Ron moves in, and he was a gay US retired veteran. They say he was really witty, funny, sweet, kind, caring, sociable, just super likable. This is where Shelley does what she does best. Starts hurting him. First, she would start verbally yelling at him, telling he was worthless, and then that turned into the beatings. She would give him pills just like she would do to Kathy. She would withhold food and clothes and water from him. She would withhold using the bathroom from him, which is just so sad. He ended up passing away in August of 2003 when he was 57 years old in her home. It was later found out that he was covered in burns. She had lied to a bunch of his friends when they started asking questions where he was, and she said that he had moved away after getting a new job, that he moved to Tacoma, Washington. Sammy, which is Michelle's daughter, she says that even though Kathy's death she believes was by accident, she doesn't think this was by accident. It was really intentful and purposeful. This time, Tori was 14. She was the last daughter that was living in the home when Ron had vanished. She ended up telling her two sisters that were in their 20s, and they were living in different parts of Washington state. So she told them that, and of course they said to look for evidence. That's when they discovered lots of Ron's possessions, which included a ton of bloody bandages. This is where they finally got enough courage to end up calling the police. This is what's really crazy. Both knoteks accepted plea deals for lesser charges. This is where it gets disgusting. David was released from prison in 2016 after only serving 13 years, and Shelley is scheduled for early release in 2022, which is right around the corner. Could you imagine this crazy lady being your next door neighbor? What? She only served 19 years. This is honestly the most frightening and disturbing case I've ever heard about, and I can't even believe that the husband is free to walk the streets right now when he aided and abetted what she did. And not to mention, he took his nephew's life and she's about to get out. I don't understand. Like, I'm honestly blown away by this. So I want to hear your guys' comments and thoughts on this case. Did you guys hear about this? So let me know. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.